It's Red Eye Radio. Talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios. For Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, Dan Mandis, this is Red Eye Radio.
866-90 Red Eye is the phone number, 866-907-3339. If you can't text in, I should say if you can't call in, you can text in 615-737-9986. I want to finish a thought. I ran out of time in the last hour, so I want to finish a thought. Guy called up and said that you've got these Democrats and they're calling for violence against Republicans. Why don't Republicans or law enforcement just, enforce current law and go arrest all these people that are making threats against Republicans? And one of the things that I said was, well, part of this is that they leave just enough room so that they have, some sort of deniability. It's like, well, they're taking me too literal and so forth. I was playing this audio, then I'm going to move on. But I was playing this audio from Texas State Representative Jolanda Jones. People tell me on that line, the text line, that she is from the Houston area.
I'm not going to punch you back in your face. I'm going to go across your neck.
And she was, when she said that, she was doing a, like a slashing motion across her neck. So, to me, that is clearly somebody who is calling for violence against people that you don't agree with. To me, it's obvious. But I suppose there's enough, sort of room in there for interpretation. So I guess the question is, and I would actually be interested to know if you want to text in, call in if you want, but text in because it's easier. You don't have to hold. I totally get it. Hearing Jolanda Jones say this.
I'm not going to punch you back in your face. I'm going to go across your neck.
Do you think that is a legit threat to a Republican or to a conservative or to a member of ICE? Or is she just being rather generic in that response, and she's sort of just generically speaking? Because I don't think there's enough there in that soundbite, which is what the caller was responding to. I don't think there's enough in that soundbite to actually, charge her with any kind of a crime. It is not a specific crime against a specific person, but here's the deal. When you have enough of these kinds of implied suggestions that there needs to be something done to stop the Trump administration, which is basically what she's saying, then we have enough just lunatic people in this country that will do the bidding of someone like Jolanda Jones. Look at the murder of Charlie Kirk. Look at the assassination attempts at Donald Trump. So when Democrats say these kinds of things, no, it is not a specific threat against a specific person, but the cumulative nature of all of these different suggestions, and I'm putting that in air quotes, is enough that if somebody is insane, they'll go out and they'll pull a trigger. And that is exactly what the Democrats are doing, and they know that. There's an infinite number of examples of how the Democrats are embracing violence and racism and, again, embracing this advocacy for violence. Do you remember that woman? Just real quickly, then I promise I'm going to move on. But do you remember that woman who was making the finger guns to shoot her neck, shouting bang, bang, mocking the death of Charlie Kirk, perhaps advocating for more assassinations? You remember that woman. Everybody remembers that woman. That video out there in Chicago was seen many, many, many times. Megyn Kelly went off on her the other night.
Lucy Martinez has had her fat ass fired. That's what needs to happen to Lucy. Her fat ass needs to be fired.
Yep.
Period.
Mm-hmm.
She's a pig. And I look forward to her termination, which I do believe will eventually happen.
Well, it happened. Lucy Martinez was indeed fired. In a letter sent to parents, Nathan Hale Elementary School principal Don Les Gomez made Lucy Martinez the victim. Listen to this. She sends this letter to parents, and she said that threats were made against Martinez, but made no mention of what she had done or the discipline she received. Fox News Digital previously reported, in other words, the school where Lucy Martinez taught, even though she's been fired, did indeed portray her as a victim. Now listen, and I say this all the time. Everyone has a right to say whatever they want to say. But that doesn't mean that they have a right to no repercussions or consequences. And so if the world believes that what you did was so repulsive, we're not going to advocate for violence. If you're a conservative, you're not going to advocate for violence. You just might let that person's employer know where they work and let that employer know, just so you know, this is the kind of person that is representing you, your company, or your school district. Now, did she deserve to get fired? I believe that she exhibited extremely poor judgment. And yeah, I do believe that she deserved to be fired. You know why? Because if a school teacher, and apparently she taught kindergarten through like 8th grade. So let me ask you this. If you were in Chicago and you realized that Lucy Martinez was your kid's school teacher and you were a conservative, would you be concerned that Lucy Martinez, if she found out the political proclivities of your family, would you be worried that she would, flunk your kid, bully your kid as a teacher, look the other way if kids were bullying your kid? Because here's the thing. If you are willing, after the horrendous death of Charlie Kirk was caught on video, if you are willing to go out into the public sphere and do finger guns to your neck, pull that thumb, pull the trigger, and yell bang, bang, then I also believe that you are the kind of person that would take it out on a child in your class. I just do. Now, maybe I'm wrong on that, but I really don't think that I am. And I think that's why, the school, you would think that the school understood that, and clearly the school did. Chuck Schumer said something incredible. I know that I'm pausing here because I'm trying to figure out a tweet that somebody sent me, which I'm gonna focus on that in a second. Chuck Schumer, though, said something, and I want to play it for you because it is something that the minority leader in the House of Representatives, he is the guy in charge of the Democrats, he said, which is really a ridiculous statement that he made. Here it is, in all his glory, Chuck Schumer. Listen.
I would ask my colleague, one of the greatest blows to democracy when we don't have a fully free press, and has it been a hallmark of so many of the countries that he has mentioned that are autocracies or absolute dictatorships to have no free press, so no information can come out? And doesn't that dramatically hurt the American people when government is shielded and can do whatever it wants and hurt as many people as it wants because you don't have a free press? Doesn't it really shouldn't it really frighten every American that this is a large step on the road away from democracy towards tyranny and towards authoritarian government?
Okay, so I'm going to be honest. I don't even know what he's talking about. Like, I don't know what they were debating in the Senate. But the fact that Chuck Schumer actually said that it should frighten every American when a presidential administration is shielded by the press, and they're talking about Donald Trump. Are you kidding me? Look at the incredible cover-up of Joe Biden's declining mental acuities. I mean, where was Chuck Schumer then? Because that will go down in history. The collective cover-up of Joe Biden's decline by the mainstream media when talk show hosts and podcasters were talking about it literally every day. And the mainstream media, oh, he's sharp as a tack. There's no problem with Joe Biden. I mean, look at this press release from the White House. They say that Joe Biden is sharp as a tack. Nothing to see here. Remember that? Jake Tapper and all the people over there at CNN and MSNBC and the networks. They'd always say, right? Remember this? They would always say, Donald Trump or Republicans claim without evidence that Joe Biden has declining health and declining mental acuity. And they would always add those two words, right? No evidence. And I remember at the time I'm hosting my talk show in Nashville, and I am losing my ever-loving mind. It's like, what the heck do you mean, no evidence? The evidence is everywhere that Joe Biden was losing his mental acuity. And so for Chuck Schumer to say, oh, it should frighten every American when a presidential administration is shielded by the press. You mean like Joe Biden was for 4 years? I mean, come on up, Chuck. That's one of the problems with the Democrat Party, right? They have absolutely no self-awareness. None whatsoever. By the way, I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if this was released yesterday or the day before, but you remember the Department of Homeland Security when there was there's a flood. This was in North Carolina. They had some flooding, and you had FEMA going around to neighborhoods, and the accusation was by people within FEMA that said that, and this was under Joe Biden, that they were going around to neighborhoods and they were looking at the neighborhoods that had a lot of Trump support, and they were discriminating against those houses that displayed Trump support, like Trump campaign materials on their front lawn and so forth. Well, now there's a report from the Department of Homeland Security that says that that actually happened. Department of Homeland Security report, FEMA workers did indeed improperly track politics of disaster victims. They say last year, when devastating hurricanes hit the southeast coast of the United States, higher-ups in FEMA ordered workers to discriminate against houses that displayed Donald Trump campaign materials on their property. Unbelievable. Are you kidding me? Remember that woman, Marnie Washington, a FEMA official? She was fired after ordering her subordinates to skip pro-Trump houses. She gave an interview after her dismissal and claimed such discrimination was not even an isolated incident. One of the things that she said, this is a quote from Town Hall, FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated, she said. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas as well. And FEMA did pause aid in North Carolina, citing concerns over an armed militia threatening workers in the area, which, by the way, this armed militia that they talked about, they had no evidence of that. Deanne Criswell, then director of FEMA, was hauled before Congress to answer questions about the discrimination, and Florida Attorney General Ashley Moody took legal action against the agency. So now, they say, the scandal is getting even worse. As it turns out, FEMA workers were collecting data on the politics of disaster victims. I've got more on this straight ahead. The phone number, 866-90-RED-EYE. If you can't, call in, text in, 615-737-9986. Got a lot more straight ahead right here on Red Eye Radio.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max. Most owner-operators leased to larger carriers are paid on a per-mile basis or a percentage of revenue per load. The per-mile basis is most prevalent among larger fleets, percentage at smaller. Pay per mile tends to dominate discussions about pay just because it's easier to measure, and pay per mile often is wrongly used as the deciding factor in leasing to a carrier. While pay per mile can be a vital factor, it's not a cure for every ill, nor does it mean a big settlement check is coming an owner-operator's way. Why? Because pay per mile always must be considered in balance with gross revenue as well as total costs. Gross revenue can include flat mileage pay that varies by length of haul, percentage revenue pay, and more. Most importantly, though, for every revenue dollar generated, only part of that dollar is profit. But for every extra dollar of cost saved, the entire dollar contributes to profit. Knowing and understanding your cost to operate is fundamental to understanding the true value of any pay package. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. 866-90-RED-EYE, 866-907-3339. I mean, this is infuriating. Where it turns out the Biden FEMA, the workers improperly tracked the politics of disaster victims, just finding this out. You know, I think we all knew this because you had that Marty Washington, that FEMA official who, you know, really effectively acted as a whistleblower, saying that, you know what, we've got, and this is what FEMA was thinking, that we've got these, the flooding in Florida, North Carolina, and so forth. We had some in my state of Tennessee as well on the eastern side. And FEMA paused aid in North Carolina, citing concerns over some armed militia threatening workers in the area without evidence. And so I was, just before the last commercial break, I was telling you a little bit about this. But now the Department of Homeland Security and the Trump administration is saying this is actually worse than just, oh, look, there's a Trump sign, we're not going to help that house. They say FEMA, they were collecting data on the politics of disaster victims. This is what it says. This is a report. The Privacy Office of the Department of Homeland Security is releasing a review of these accusations, the broader issue of using disaster relief work to collect political intelligence on voters and the potentially withholding of benefits from some with the wrong or opposite beliefs. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the new administration found more than just one isolated incident, it says in air quotes, describing violations of the Privacy Act of 1974, which, with a few exceptions, bars collection of information about First Amendment protected speech, like, for example, political signage. Most tellingly, though, they say DHS investigators found in a near exact parallel to trends in pro-censorship programs that a lot of the political controversy surrounding FEMA aid grew out of the vague way in which the agency's Disaster Survivor Assistance Field Operations Guide was written. Got a little bit more on this and a whole lot more straight ahead on Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios. Now, for Gary McNamara and Eric Harley, here is Dan Mandis.
Appreciate you listening to Red Eye Radio. It's getting late, folks. Red Eye Radio, 866-90 Red Eye is the phone number. 866-907-3339. You can text in if you like. When I'm hosting, I use the text program for my local show in Nashville, Tennessee. I host a radio show in Nashville. It's a morning show on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and we stream everywhere. And you can also, if you like to watch radio shows, I don't understand why people like to do that, but they do. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, Rumble, just everywhere. All right, so real quick, because I want to wrap this up, but this story from Town Hall and what we have now learned about the Biden administration, to be honest, it doesn't surprise me that they were collecting data on the politics of disaster victims. I mean, does it surprise you? I mean, this was an administration. Thankfully, it's obviously gone now, but this was an administration that would go to any lengths to crush or censor people that didn't agree with them, regardless of what we're talking about. I mean, certainly when we were talking about, the efficacy of vaccines and the shutdowns and all of that, I don't want to revisit that whole ugly situation. Certainly that's been talked about enough. But I just, when you look at that, it's not real surprising. And now the Trump administration is going to, it looks like, launch a big-time investigation into all of that, which I do believe that they really do need to do. Because that's the kind of thing that, simply put, cannot happen again. And Lord help us if Kamala Harris, she's thinking about running for president again, obviously. Can you imagine if she ends up running for president again and she wins? I don't know how that could happen. I always seem to talk about the lack of self-awareness by the Democrats. And the reason why I'm so stunned is because this is a party where they have advocated for so many horrendous things, which we've been talking about a lot tonight. But then you have Chuck Schumer with the audio that I just played, where he's talking about, how it would be horrible for America if we had a press that was shielding the president of the United States. And oh, my Lord, do you hear? People used to say to me all the time, do you hear yourself? And I'd be like, yeah, what's the problem? Well, I say that to Chuck Schumer. Do you hear yourself? I say that to the Democrats. Do you hear yourself? And so the more that you listen to what they say, the more you realize that, simply put, they don't make any sense whatsoever. By the way, today is day 23 of the shutdown. So I want to play some audio from President Trump. He was all over the place yesterday. And one of the things that I've been saying as I've been guest hosting for Red Eye Radio is that the Democrats are on the run. And so one of the things that the Democrats are now asking, Chuck Schumer, as a matter of fact, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, they're asking, they're begging, they're pleading with Donald Trump, please, Mr. President, step in. Help us solve this problem that we have ourselves caused and created. Let me ask you a question. Because what they're asking, what Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and other Democrats are asking, is that the president step in because the Republicans, the Republicans in the House, they've already done what they're going to do. They passed that continuing resolution. Now off it goes to the Senate. And it is the Senate Democrats who are holding things up. And, it's been well documented what the Senate Democrats want and what the Democrats want. They want medical benefits for illegal aliens. They want money for NPR and PBS and some other nonsense things. And it's over $1 trillion. And the president is saying, no, I'm not going to step in. Why should I step in? The government's not open. And so the president, in a very smart, strategic kind of move, he and Mike Johnson and John Thune has said, we will negotiate when you open up the government. But the Democrats are desperate. They need to come back with something to agree to reopen the government. Because their base is saying, no, let it burn. Donald Trump is in charge of the government right now. Let it burn. That's the base of the Democrat Party. And so Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and the Democrats are terrified of their base. We spoke about that a lot. This is Donald Trump and what he says about helping the Democrats dig themselves out of the hole that they have dug.
Well, I think it's a shame that it's shut down because we have the greatest economy, as you were saying before. We have the greatest economy in the world right now, by far, the United States. We have almost 18, now it was 17, now it's $18 trillion being poured into our country, and it's no time for shutdowns. I don't think it's affecting what we're doing, but it's too bad for a lot of people. We have a lot of good people that are working right now that should be, and it's because the Democrats want to try and renegotiate a deal that they had negotiated. They want $1.5 trillion given to illegal immigrants who came into the country, and it's going to hurt the health care of citizens of our country that have been paying into it, that have been working hard for it, that really deserve it.
Yep.
So we're never going to do that. It's not going to happen. And I will tell you, there are a lot of good Democrats that really want to make a deal. And I think all we need is 5 Democrats because we have a great support on the Republican side. So I think we need 5 Democrats, and there are a lot of them that want to make a deal. So I think at some point, common sense will prevail.
All right, so that is the president. Somebody said, and I don't know if I was buying it, but somebody said that the Democrats were waiting till after the No Kings protest last weekend to talk to and, come back and negotiate with the Republicans. I don't know if that's true, but we are now at day 23. And the longer that this goes on, I believe that more and more people will blame the Democrats. The phone number is 866-90-RED-I, 866-907-3339. Doug is in Memphis, Tennessee on Red Eye Radio. Doug, thanks for calling in.
Thank you. I was wanting to comment about how the FEMA officials got called out picking and choosing where they were going to give disaster relief.
Yes.
If there's ever another next time there's a Democratic president, they're probably going to order that do not write anything down.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure every instruction on how to give out supplies is just verbal orders, verbal instruction.
Well, Doug, I'll tell you. Can I just tell you what I'm really concerned about? Then I want to ask you, Doug, don't go anywhere, because I want to ask you how it's going in Memphis. But what I would say is my big concern with when the Democrats, and eventually they'll be back in the Oval Office. I mean, it's just the way of politics. It might be a long time, but my concern is when the Democrats back in office, they are going to be back, and they are going to be back with a vengeance. Can you imagine the number of investigations and accusations that are going to come? I mean, you're gonna have people like Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Kristi Noem, J.D. Vance, all of these people. I mean, Tom Homan, and they're never going to have another moment of peace if and when the Democrats get back into the Oval Office. And even if they end up getting the House of Representatives, that is typically where you start the investigations. And so all eyes are on the midterm elections. Now, let me ask you, Doug, you're in Memphis. I don't know if you know this. I'm a talk show host in Nashville, Tennessee. I speak a lot about Memphis. And so, as you know, there's been a law enforcement surge out there. I've been covering it. I've been speaking to a lot of the officials out that way. But, where exactly, if you don't mind me asking, I mean, don't give me your address, but where do you live in Memphis?
I live in the Highland Heights area. I'm not sure if you know what, that's kind of centrally located. But
okay, well, so there's been as we call, a law enforcement surge in Memphis. Donald Trump has sent in the National Guard. But even before that, there were some additional law enforcement that, went into Memphis to try to curb the crime. So Two questions. Number one, how do you as a local feel about that? And don't be afraid to say that you don't like it. I mean, don't be afraid to say that if that's how you feel. But number two, what has been the impact?
Well, the impact is I haven't heard much more than fire department sirens in the past couple weeks. I see a lot of Tennessee Highway Patrol vehicles cruising up and down Main Drag, Summer Avenue. That's a major street where I live. And in the past 2 weeks, I've only seen one customs enforcement helicopter. It's a black H-60 type helicopter with a gold band around the fuselage.
Okay, yeah, it's a black helicopter.
Yeah, I've seen one border patrol truck, and I just saw that yesterday.
Doug, you ever speak? Doug, do you ever speak to your neighbors?
Yes, all the time.
So what do people think in your neighborhood about all this?
Well, they're feeling a lot safer.
Okay, yeah, like the mayor. The mayor is, a guy named Paul Young out there. He, he is against this.
Yes, he is. He thinks it's an invasion. I've seen signs in one of the more liberal parts of town saying opportunity, not occupation. And I'm like, who's occupying? I don't see troops marching up and down the street.
Here's Doug. Here's what I would say, and then I'll let you have the final word. But if you are afraid of law enforcement, and I'm going to air quote this, occupying your town, which that's not what the law enforcement are doing, then you're probably one of those people that is the reason why they are in that town in the first place. Because people like you, Doug, and I've spoken to people from Memphis before during my Nashville show, people in Memphis are excited. They can go out, they can hang out, they can walk the streets. It's just like we saw in Washington, D.C. And I think that when Governor Lee said, and this is inside baseball for the state of Tennessee, but our governor said that he is going to continue. We will continue to have some sort of additional forces in Memphis to keep the peace, because Tennessee will never be all it can be as long as Memphis continues to be the crap hole that it was. So, I think that it's a great thing what is happening, and I think that, it could be a blueprint for the rest of the country. So, Doug, do you have any final words that you want to say?
Yes, one of the local radio show hosts on the station where this show is played on, he was commenting that some of the politicians who benefit from the crime rates Memphis has experienced, they must be losing a lot of money because of the, don't want to call it a crackdown, but increased enforcement of the law, with reduced crime rates because criminals are being taken off the street.
Yep.
These people got to be losing money on that.
Well, and Doug, I appreciate the call from Memphis. Keep your head down still. But what I would say about all that is that, if there's less crime being committed, then people don't have to, you're not seeing, money coming in from bail or court fees or fines or all of that kind of stuff as well. And I appreciate the call. Dan Mandis here on Red Eye Radio.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
Red Eye Radio, 866-90-RED-EYE is the phone number, 866-907-3339. If you can't call in, you can text in tonight, 615-737-9986. My name is Dan Mandis. I host a morning show in Nashville, Tennessee on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. There is a House minority whip, and her name, I believe it is Catherine Clark. And she is, Catherine Clark. She said something to Chad Pergram that a lot of people are reacting to as it relates to the shutdown. I want you to listen very carefully. Listen to this.
Shutdowns are terrible. And of course, there will be, families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility very seriously, but it is one of the few leveraged times we have.
So you heard what she said. And there was another Democrat that said the same thing, where they said, well, the government is shut down, so we have leverage. So in other words, you got a lot of furloughs. You got a lot of, people there in Washington, D.C., federal workers that are losing their jobs. Military and contractors are not getting paid, but the Democrats will not open up the government because they want leverage. It's kind of sick, don't you think?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.